Welcome to the Escarpment. This is my model railway HO build channel and I'm your host Jason. Today, bit of a major layout update. I think it's almost been 2 months since my last update, including I've gotten my mojo back and I'm pretty excited about that. And shortly I'm going to take you around, give you that update, show you the areas that I've done. At the end of the video, what I'll do, I'm going to come back. I've got some news. There is a fairly major change that's going to happen in this area here. So as I said, I've got my mojo back, the terraforming, the base coat paint, and then the top coat of soil has been completed in certain areas, and I'll take you around and show that. I thought I might just take you to this area here. This is the level 2 branch line, and this will be like the local depot, the locomotive depot, I should say. I did purchase myself one of these loading docks from Ozcision. I actually brought it pre-made. It was all painted, and as you see it there, that's how it came. And it's a smart little unit. I was quite surprised. I wasn't quite sure what it was going to be like, but it's a great model. I'm going to be using that in this area because I do have a loading facility. I'm going to have that industry here, and then a little bit further up will be the milk facility. And I brought myself this kit here. And what I've got planned to do is do a bit of kit bashing and turn this into more of a milk facility, offloading, loading, that type of thing. Not 100% sure with the kit bash at the moment, but obviously this here was the main area I'll be keeping. It's a little bit too deep, so I'll need to cut it to fit in between the rails and the back wall there. So what's that space? And I think there'll be other things that I'll do some 3D printing just to finish off. So the terraforming, you can sort of see here, I've got the background there. That's got the base paint coat, but also had the soil basically covering it now. The soil is just the stuff I've sifted in the backyard and then added some sandstone cement mix into it just to give it that color. And I'll be applying it to the front there where you can see the base coat. The space there with the grey felt, that's where the station platform's going in. Now there's a hell of a lot of foam work that I've been doing at the back there. There'll be a bit of a hill, some cliff face type stuff there. I've still got lots to do in this area here. It's going to be taken over the portal. Now the portal itself, you can see I've got one there, but I've got a new design, but right now I'm having a shitload of issues with getting it printed out. I actually got this one done, and the only real difference is you can see inside the portal there, I've actually doubled the size that it goes in, and it's all one piece. You can see all the intricate brickwork there, and even inside the portal, the whole, that's all brickwork. I don't know if you can see it too well there. But anyway, that's the 2.0 design. It's really same design as before, but I've just extended the internals to it. And all of them will be like that now. So you can see there, the original, it was probably half the size, you can see there. And I'm sure I'll sort it out, but there you go. And I might just take you through a few pictures here on how I put this tunnel together. basically foam I've wrapped around the edges of the baseboard of the tracks, and then I've used these brackets to hold it in place and to make sure the internals were shaped okay, so no trains were going to hit, because especially on a curve it gets quite tricky with just using foam. This would be the approach I'll take for all my tunnels. You can sort of see there, that's how it's shaped internal. Not quite the exact shape as the portal itself, but I just want to make sure I've got enough clearance and I'm not going to have any future issues with any longer carriages rubbing along the sides of the foam. But I've got heaps of clearance, so it's all good. Everything here is pretty much done with styrofoam. Get the base right, and then before I put the base in, I put the next layer on, and then bring it into the layout and put it in place. That's the Stanwell Park Viaduct. You can see on each side now I've got the terraforming in place. It's got the paint coat, and most of it now has been applied with the top coat of soil. I'm not going to be doing too much more with that because obviously there's a bunch of scenic stuff that'll go over the top of that. And then I've still got some work down here along the creek. That's just roughed in. I need to have a look at some pictures there and then sort of make sure I get that pretty close to the real deal. And obviously there's another structure down here that I haven't done as yet. That'll be 3D printed. You'll see that once I get to that point. And again, the next step before I go too far with the scenic stuff, I do need to start printing out the skin of this bridge. And that's going to be an interesting exercise, but I'll just take it. I'll start with the legs first, and see how we go. It's working. It works in my head, but I guess to bring it out of my head and into reality, hopefully I'll get that and do that justice. You can see there, that's just my camera setup. And if I come across this area, I've still got to come back here. There will be another tunnel portal. I've actually taken out the one that was there, just in preparation to get some foam in there and get that working. It'll basically look similar to what that does there, but it'll be just in a smaller space over here. And then obviously that needs to come up and over. You see here, the top of the first helix, I've got all the foam in place for the hill. I've done the top coat painting, and now I've got the soil top coat over the top. I was doing some experimenting because what I was doing was just basically painted over everything, let it dry, and then I came in with white glue, PV glue, wood glue, whatever you want to call it, and just painted it on, and then came in and sprinkled my soil over the top. And then after that, I came through with a little spray, bottle spray, with 50-50 white glue and water. And also I did a couple drops of grey dye in there, and then came in and sprayed over it again. And you can sort of see some areas that got some texture there. I did come in with a wire brush I sort of took away any excess, vacuumed that up as I went around just to give it, you know, a whole bunch of texture on the ground cover. And what I might do in the future when I do another area, I might sort of show the steps in that. I've already shown you how I've done preparing the foam and then basically the plaster cloth over the top of that on how I do it. I've done that. I've taken that technique and done it throughout. You can see here from this side. And here we are. So I've sort of got all this in place, did the plaster cloth. I usually, after the plaster cloth, I'll come in with using this smooth coat just to give it a thin layer over the top. Then I come in, do a bit of sanding just where it looks a bit rougher than it needs to be, and then come in and paint it. But don't know, yeah. You can see inside the tunnel there. It looks like, I think you can see a little bit there. But yeah, so that's what's sort of been done to date. As I said, I'm concentrating on this level 2, the main escarpment on the south coast. It's coming along very well. I need to come back to this part over here and then do the, you know, the soil top coat. But that'll be another day. I think this part's mostly ready for the plaster to go over the top. So I need to come back to this side as well and do the top soil coat. Basically the same that I've done over here. And similar technique that I've done over here, but you can see probably more of the grey in between. And that's basically where I've mixed a bit of grey acrylic paint with a 50-50 mix of white glue and water and come in and just sprayed it in certain areas. And that's how I've got that sort of pattern. But again, a lot of this is actually going to be covered. You probably won't see a hell of a lot of it. There might be some rock faces exposed, but majority will be covered by bush. And then once all that's done, I'll start then the second half down at the north end of the shed and get all this done. A little bit different over here. What I've got planned is there will be a road that will follow the line around this area. So that will be slightly different, something a little bit different with the scenic stuff. And you can see here there's still going to be plenty of hills, mountains, and I've got to fill all this in with foam. Going to be more mountains there, and then obviously this has got to be done here. And up here I'll apply the same technique as I've done on the first helix, where there'll be foam pieces that will cover this, and then the plaster cloth, top paint cover, and then the soil cover. It'll basically look the same as that over there. And again, I've got another portal there that will also be reflected. I'll probably build up the top of it with a bit more hills, just so it doesn't look like you've got a set of rails coming over the top of it. It is meant to be a different area, scenic area. They're not meant to be seen together. Anyway, I'll see what I can do there. Now I did mention, I think it was in the last video, this space here on the backdrop, I'm planning, well, in my head, what I want to do and want to trial with is doing a photoscenic type backdrop there showing the back end of the real viaduct. So as you come around this section here, it's almost like you're sort of looking at approaching the viaduct, and you know there'll be less trees and shrubs in the way, so it'll give you a bit more of a visual. There'll be a few in the way, but just so it doesn't look so obvious and out of place with the rest of the scenic stuff. But yeah, there we have it. That's what I've done to date, and I must admit it's got me really excited. My mojo's back, everything's going well. So that's been the updates to date. There's been a lot done. I know it doesn't look like a lot, but you know, having such a large layout, it takes some time. You know, I've got plenty of time, knock on wood. So basically what I thought I'd do is sort of take you through what I'm going to do in this area here. Now, there was a guy, and I do apologize, I can't remember who it is, and I couldn't find the comments, but a few years ago, the first comment came through saying, why don't you open all this up? Now, at the time, obviously I didn't have the terraforming in, and to me, it was a little bit foreign. I thought, no, that's not what I have planned here. Again, same bloke put out the same comment. I can't remember how many videos ago. And again, I sort of looked at it. I didn't really have this side of the terraforming in. I might have had that side. And I looked down and I thought, oh, no, it just doesn't fit in with my plans. The other day I was up here looking at this, and for whatever reason, that comment popped into my head. I started to look at, because now that I've got the terraforming done on each side, you know, I can see the shape, and I can now sort of picture maybe where this fellow sort of was coming from with his comments, and maybe he had the vision, but I guess, you know, when he mentioned it twice in the past, I just didn't have that vision. But now I think I do have the same vision that he's got. And what I'm thinking of doing now, the good thing is, and I was sort of looking at the infrastructure of the framework, but I'm pretty safe that this beam and this one came in afterwards, so it's not really part of the structural integrity of level 3 or anything like that. At the moment, it's in my head. I haven't 100% committed to it, but I'm almost there. I've just got to do some few checks and sums, but what I plan to do, I'll be taking out this cross member to about here, and then what I'm going to do is on the other side cut down where the terraforming is with about a 10 mil, 15 mil lip. And that's what I plan to do here. So it will sort of start up here or around here somewhere, and it will then take the shape of that terraforming on that side. I'll cut that. It'll come down here somewhere. I've got to disconnect this set of LED lights here and take that off. But I'm thinking, yeah, I might just open this up and you can view this bridge from both sides, because originally this was going to be all covered on this side with background and the scenery, and you could only view it from that side of the viaduct. But I'm thinking now in this space with some of the fascia that's going to go in, it might be a little bit closed off, and I thought, yeah, that might not be interesting enough for myself and other operators that will eventually come over to do some running sessions. I'll come back to that and I'll take you through that once I commit to it. As far as the fascia goes, because originally if it was going to be left like this, there was going to be a flat fascia from up there to here to cover this and around to this side just behind me, if you can see that, and linking up to this fascia over here. But now I won't have that part because all this is going to be open, but I will have the fascia up here, come around to cover this part, but then I'll have a fascia here to block in. You won't see the internals of that tunnel, but the fascia will come across and it'll sort of follow this around to here. And it'll sort of line back up to whatever's left here. But I'll first cut out these sections, take these members away and go from there. That's what my future plans are, as well as continuing, as you would have seen, I've got some foam over here. I'll continue to finish that off. I do need to sort out my 3D resin printer because really the tunnel portals are holding me up, as mentioned earlier. But anyway, until next time, bye for now.